This is Wendy, and I'm here with Ryan for another episode of eBay Scavengers. This is episode number 70, and today Ryan and I are going to talk about selling slides on eBay. Hi, Ryan.
Hey.
So, selling slides. Can I tell you the thing that made me interested in this subject was that slides are very, very small and they don't break.
Yes, that is a very good reason to sell slides.
So for that reason, I really want to make slides work. You have a little bit of experience selling slides, I understand?
Yes, I have noticed, it was almost by accident that I started selling slides, where I was at the thrift store that we normally go to, and I just saw these boxes and boxes, like 10 boxes of slides from this one guy. And I just thought, I'm just going to grab them and just see what the images are. And so I brought them home and I looked at them, held them up to a window. And I saw these images of all these 1970s, all these country dudes roasting a pig out in the woods by their RVs. It was amazing. The images, I just thought, they're just snapshots. These guys regular snapshots. And I just thought, I don't know, someone's going to want these because they're really neat snapshot of American history. I think I put them up for a couple, I swear, I put them up for a couple $100 and I sold them.
Wow. So have you sold slides since then as well?
Yes, I have found other huge lots of slides. A lot of times you'll find large lots of them because people get rid of these carousel trays, boxes and boxes of carousel trays full of, family slides and travel slides, and you just get them all. And I sold another lot for a couple $100 as well, just of random images.
I've noticed just recently that they are out there, and I'm just blown away, on an emotional level, that I can go to a yard sale and someone will be like, yeah, take them. And it's their family's history.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's real. Yeah.
It's funny, too. I mean, one of the lots of slides that I found was this. I found it while we were shopping in Denver, Colorado, at one of the big Goodwill warehouse outlets where they just dump stuff into huge bins. I found all these slide trays, and it was like you said, it was really kind of sad where you could see this family, these two daughters growing up in Southern California. It looked like they lived in this Brady Bunch house, in the suburbs of Southern California. You could see them growing up over time. It was really freaky. And I was like, who are these people? I want to find these people and be like, I found all your old slides of your family memories.
I met a girl recently who's an artist, and she was telling me that just for money, because she was broke, she started offering a service to old folks where she would digitalize their slides for them. And she said it got her into these really entangled relationships with them, and they became very close, and she started hearing all the stories about the family, and she said the same thing you did. She's like, I would watch this family because I would digitalize all their slides. I'd watch them grow up, get married, have kids. And she said it was really emotional.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, I and you come from an art background. That's what I am, an artist. Right. So to see these crazy, intimate portraits of people and their lives and their travels it's endlessly fascinating to find. It's like treasure.
It's funny, as I have been looking at the slides, my bounty of slides, and I'm considering listing them for the first time, I find myself thinking well, let's see, if I had a projector, I blew these up and I did an installation and I had projections on one wall and blah, blah. And suddenly I'm building an art project and I get lost.
Yeah, right. It's easy. Well, you know what I do too? I always try to, I'm always thinking of the story behind the family or the story behind the people. Also for old photographs, I'll find weird old photographs of people and you're like, what is the story behind this photograph? I just start making up stories in my head that are just so elaborate. And Jay's like, Ryan, just list it already.
That's an art project. You can write news stories.
Exactly. Oh, actually, I listed some black and white photographs that someone had taken of an old apartment, and it was really, this is total side note. And I started in my listing just writing a story about the people where I was like, this is what I think happened. It is so funny because Jay had a completely different story. He's like, no, that's not who they were.
Yeah, you could just write in the listing, like, might be true.
Right. It's like, who are they?
So anyway, I want to share with you my immediate frustration with slides. So, that being said, it's very alluring. But then when it came to me looking at the slides and finding a reliable way to sift through them and then more so to capture them so that I could upload them into an eBay listing, that's where things sort of broke down for me. So I find a lot of those old-fashioned slide viewers at yard sales, and I buy them because I resell them pretty well. And they're really fine for just like sifting through and looking at them approximately 3 inches by 3 inches with a light behind it. But then I tried a $30 scanner. So the difference being it's uploading it to a file on my computer. And I found the quality was so awful that in color, and it would like dement a little bit, that it was going to take so much time out of my life to manipulate that file and try to get it to look like the original in quality, that I thought, I'm not going to invest in this. It's too much time. So what did you do? Like, how did you get your slides to look good enough to put in a listing?
Well, what I did was what you guys did, where I got a slide scanner. It was like $25. I bought it off eBay. And you're right. It does degrade the quality. Like, it is not even close to like professional or original quality for the slides. It kind of like, it's not that it pixelizes it, but it kind of like, it degrades the image a little bit so that like, the crispness of the image isn't quite there. But
and in my experience, it darkened it too. It was like dark and fuzzy and muddy.
Okay, right. Yes, it's not very crisp. It's kind of like a bad JPEG rendering of the photo. But for me, it worked as a preview. Basically, in my listing, I'm like, I don't use a professional slide scanner. This is just a preview so you know the types of images that you're getting. They're seeing that they're not faded slides, and it's kind of like getting the themes of the images. So I just kind of was like, that's just going to work for me for now as a preview.
So you know what I wound up doing instead, which I think I'm favoring as a method and I'm going to stick with? I found that I got a better quality when I took my old like 1960s slide viewer from a yard sale and I loaded my slide in, and then I just took my iPhone and I shot an image of the screen.
That's a great idea. So you actually used a slide projector like as if you were doing like a slideshow for people and just took a picture of it. I mean, I don't have a slide projector, so that's a great idea.
And my slide projector, just so you know, it's just a window that's like 3.5 inches by 3.5, maybe 4 inches, whatever. And then there's a little a loading area to the right, and you can pile up 10 slides, and it'll show you one at a time. It's just this little handheld thing. It's tiny. And that was it. And funny enough, right after I sold all of our slide viewers, that's when I realized that I needed one for myself.
Oh, of course. That's always what happens. You're like, oh, too bad I sold that. I totally need it.
And just a funny aside, we had one in our inventory that I turned on, and I'm loading slides in to view these slides, and there's a spider in the window. So the light goes on, the window illuminates, and there's a spider, a dead spider. And I talked to Mikey about it, and he's like, yeah, I know, I put the spider in the listing.
It's like a spider included.
Really? You're going to sell this with a spider in the window? But yeah, he's convinced that someone doesn't care.
Someone wants that to be there because it's cool looking, right?
So I'm going to keep going with that. I'm glad in a way to hear from you that, there's not much improvement doing it the other way and that you can still sell it by just describing that you don't have the high quality imager.
Right.
So some of the cool things I noticed about slides, back to the fun part, is there are things that make them worth more, like location, time, weather, what's in the picture. So I noticed just a few things like Disneyland, wars, and then there were also types of films. So I learned what Kodachrome is, which is just a really special color quality that was done only during a certain time and discontinued in 2009, that was really extra valuable, as was Ektachrome.
Yep.
Another discontinued, sort of aesthetic thing.
The beauty of Kodachrome, as compared to some other generic film from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, was that Kodachrome would not fade. Their colors, they just, like, you look at them today and they look beautiful. Like, my mom has photographs from Kodachrome slides from when she was, like, a little baby. And they look, she's had them printed, and they look like they were taken yesterday. If they're washed out and purplish, they're not as valuable.
I wonder, because I was fingering through some Kodachrome images online, and they seemed like the color was almost stylistic. Like, the blues were blown out. It seemed like a creative tool, in a way, like not true to life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what kind of camera and lenses people were using too. But Kodachrome definitely was like a really, the color saturation was much better than a lot of like just regular film. So people do look, like if you look for slides, if it says Kodachrome, people are like, oh yeah, they're gonna sell that because it's not gonna fade, or it hasn't faded.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I'm sitting on, I think, a bundle of a few hundred, and what's interesting about the ones that I'm going to first list to get my feet wet is part of my collection is orchids.
Wow.
Yeah, weird. And then another part is this person who shot these images was building mines in Mexico and the southwestern United States.
Wow.
He was part of the crew that engineered or built them. And what was so strange to me was, as he was on these sites doing this work that became so destructive to our planet, he was a nature lover, and he was running out and shooting birds and plants, and he was a total, like, nature junkie. So it's just so weird, like, wow, you were helping destroy the earth while you were capturing it in film.
That is so funny, though, because it's like you picked up on this story behind this, like, mysterious person, just by seeing the juxtaposition of those two images. You're like, who was this guy?
And like, did he know? Did he really connect those two extremes the way I did? What's really funny about this guy is we also bought like tons of his clothing. So I feel just so strangely personal with this man.
Yeah, isn't that weird when you go to estate sales and you have all this stuff? I've done that too. We one time bought this whole trunk worth of old clothes and photographs and letters, and it was like, a whole person's life is in here.
Letters. Oh my God.
Yeah, letters. Oh my God. It was amazing. I sold them on eBay.
Oh my God. Now, you mentioned to me earlier that you had sold some old pictures too, photographs.
Yeah. So another thing that you can look for too, besides just slides. I mean, slides are amazing because you can reprint them and you can project them. So those are cool things. But old photographs, I've sold lots of old photographs. I've sold old photograph albums, like big books full of just like random family portraits. People buy the crap out of those things. Like my mom, I was talking to my mom about it. She just didn't believe me. And then she put a bunch of photo albums up and she's like, they sold in like a couple days. I'm like, people are really into them.
Do you think it's artists buying them?
Yeah, I have a hunch. Well, I know that some of the photographs and slides I've sold were for people who are specifically using them for artwork, for theater, for set decoration, or for, like art installations, projecting things on the walls or doing staging. Because they've told me I need these for a play, so I need them by this date. But yeah, also collectors. I mean, there's some people who just collect, weird random art like that.
How interesting. So of course I used my Terapeak tool and I went there with slides and I wanted to see, what do I not know based on, what can Terapeak tell me? And what I noticed was the trend seems to be to sell very, very large lots. It's never like, here's 10 slides.
Yes.
It's always like, here's 100, here's 1,000, here's 20,000. And then most slides seem to be filed, categorized as 1940s up to, I would say, like the 80s. And then there's like a big cliff, a big drop off.
Right.
Which makes sense, following technology. I guess some people still use slides today for creative reasons. And then the things that people bothered to make mention of were things like Disneyland, World's Fair, very specific events or very exotic places.
Another thing that I noticed too was a lot of like family, like Americana, like family snapshots in Americana. Like if you have real snapshots of, like, I had some of these snapshots of these two people vacationing in Hawaii, and this woman had the beehive hairdo and like the crazy like homemade, you know, Hawaiian print dresses. They were incredible, and it was just, you know, their little vacation. So it's things like that where if you can show examples, like, look at this woman. One time I found this picture of these like 3 girls in like Catholic school uniforms and like a nun from the 50s, and it was like, look at that photo. It's just unbelievable, you know?
Yeah, I think sometimes, too, it might be clothing designers and even people who work in design departments for automobile companies, furniture. Like, they have to really locate these styles, you know?
Right. They need to see the real, like, people who, you know, were just regular living, and like what were they wearing. And yeah, I totally agree with that people are using them as references.
Yeah. So, you know, since this is like a new domain for me, at least, I took a look at accessories to see, well, what about slide accessories? And I had my own experience of selling slide viewers quite well. I noticed carousels sell okay, projectors, no problem. But I took a look at unused slide film to see if there was a market there, and I found really nothing there. And I wondered if it's because they can't even get it developed unless they have their own developing thing at home.
Yeah, I wonder also, a lot of the film is expired too, so that can mean that the film chemicals go bad, and you know, you'll take all these photos and they won't come out because the chemicals have turned bad.
Interesting. Well, this logically leads us to the Polaroid fetish, which I know a lot of my friends have.
Yes. So Polaroids, I mean, they're not slides, but they are instant film. So I've sold a lot of Polaroid cameras. If you find Polaroid instant film, people do buy it still, because for a long time it wasn't made. There is a company, it's a small company called the Impossible Project, and they make new instant film for Polaroid. So that's a whole new, it's like a new trend happening again, where people are buying Polaroids because the film is available now. That also could be a whole other podcast as well.
I know I have friends who collect Polaroid pictures that other people have taken.
Yes. Yeah, and I sold, recently, it was about a month ago, I sold a photo album that was filled with like 1970s Polaroids. So I'm pretty sure it's because they were Polaroids. People were really into them.
So you made a mention of using the window to look at your slides. Have you ever tried taking a photograph that way?
I had a couple slides from a medium format camera. It was too large for my slide scanner, so I taped it to the window where there was enough light and not too much background noise, because the problem with like trying to photograph something that's transparent through a window is that your camera keeps trying to focus on like the trees outside. So it is quite difficult, and you have to have like a manual, like you can't just use your iPhone. You need like a manual lens to like really focus on it. It did work eventually. It was quite difficult. It was enough so that the person buying the slide could, you know, see pretty much what it was. It probably wasn't the most perfect example, but I was able to do it. Yeah,
it's really interesting because I definitely have like a handful of slides in this bounty that are really sexy, like, you know, interesting old cars, beehive hairdos, you know, interesting background. But then, like, you know, 80% of it are these mundane pictures of nature. And you can see how you can easily sell this box of slides with showing the customer this really sexy image. And then, you know, they get this box of like mundane nonsense. So, I mean, of course, you want to be straightforward in your listing, but I wonder if that happens a lot, you know?
Right. Yeah. Something that I've done where I had like some ridiculous amount. I had like 800 slides or something. So I obviously could not take the time to go through all of them, but I grabbed a couple examples out of each slide tray. In my listing, I said unsorted. I've grabbed, you know, several examples from each tray, and I put as many examples, you know, sometimes I'll put 40 photos up. I mean, I will put a lot in my listing because I do my own photo hosting mostly, so I can just put as many as I want. But the more examples you can have, the better, because then people are really just like, oh my God, this is great. I can't wait to sort through all of them. And you can be honest. You can be like, I haven't sorted through these, and, 75% of them are landscapes, but here are some cool ones.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the only way to go. And I'm sure people who are buying 10,000 slides are plenty used a lot that they didn't care about.
Absolutely. I think that's just par for the course. I mean, they're like, yeah, I'll buy 5,000 slides, and, half of them are crap and the rest are amazing and perfect.
So, I'm going to put my slides up this week. I'll cross my fingers. Thanks for your tips, and we'll hope for the best. Yeah, I'm really curious to see if any of our listeners have experience selling slides and if they have any knowledge they want to share with us.
Yeah, I would love to hear about what kind of photos people have found. I think for people who are scavengers and artists, it's just like a fascinating, endlessly fun subject to go through. It are just old photo albums, other people's lives are just, it's so fun to look through and think about history and, make up stories. I always have fun when I find them, especially slides, because photos you can flip through really fast. Slides are like this whole process, it's like this whole treasure. It's like treasure hunting.
It is. And my only fear around it is it's a wormhole and it can take my day,
Yes, that is a fear. But, if you can sell a lot of cool slides for over $100, I think it's worth it.
Oh, hell yeah. In fact, the people I bought this box of slides from said, we got a lot more in the house, and I'm going to go knock on their door.
Yes, go back. Just be like, I'll take them all. I'm an artist. I'll take them all off your hands,
That's totally what I told them. I was like, I'm an artist. I can use these. And she's like, take them for $1.
Oh, that's the best.
So that wraps up another episode of eBay Scavengers. We're glad to have you with us. And as always, hope that you'll write in, ask us questions, send us comments, and of course, tell us how much you like us, because we need to know. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.